So as a good franchisee in a poor system, most franchisees are not making money, maybe 5 or 10%. We're making money. I'm the one that bought into it. Like, that's on me. I bought into that, and I should have seen warning signs. One of the things, and I'm going to get into other things like what to do when you're in this situation, how I exited and whatnot. But this was me. I was a good franchisee in a poor system.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Van Horn.
Hey, Franchise Secrets. Today it's me, and I'm going to talk about some of the experiences that I've had in franchising over the past 20 years of when things didn't work out, how to sell a distressed franchise as a franchisee. And it's just really from my perspective, some real life things that have happened to me. One of them's a smaller lesson at $150,000 lesson over about a year period, but I think there's some really good takeaways in that and what I learned about waiting too long to sell something. But I've been on both sides of the equation with this. I've been a distressed franchisee, needing to sell, wanting to sell, should have sold sooner than I actually did sell. And then I've been on the acquisition side where I have purchased other franchisees and their locations and helped those become more profitable and successful, and then sold those at a nice, healthy profit. So I've been on both sides, and I've been on the franchisor side as well, working with franchisees. So I just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from with this, because I see a lot of franchisees in the Facebook group and just friends of mine that I'm talking to that they need help with some of this. So I thought I would just do an episode on this. When I think of a distressed sale, I think of a business that's not meeting my expectations. It could be losing money. It could be a little bit of money that I'm losing, or a lot, or maybe not as making as much as I want, what my expectations were. And really my time, effort, energy, and money could be better used elsewhere in other opportunities. And so that's kind of one of the definitions of a distressed sale. So let's talk about, there's really 4 different types of scenarios around the franchisee and the franchisor. One scenario is you are a good franchisee with a good franchisor. This is the ideal scenario. This is a sign of a healthy relationship. This is usually when you have that win-win with the franchisor. But sometimes you can still be a good franchisee with a good franchisor, but it's not mixing well. It's not the industry that you want to be in, or you want to be in any longer, or you've kind of grown out of it. This was us with Solo Salons. We were a good franchisee, and they were a good franchisor. We had a nice exit when we sold to private equity. That's ideal. There's still an exit, but it was a good exit, and it was just time for us to move on. So that does happen. Another scenario is really a bad franchisee with a good franchisor. A lot of times with this, a bad franchisee doesn't mean they're bad. And all of this is like, this is my language that I'm using for the podcast. This doesn't mean you're bad, or, so just, this is the language that I'm using just to keep it really simple. But a bad franchisee, meaning they are not putting the time, effort. And I've been a bad franchisee, not putting in the time, effort, and energy into the brand, not doing what I'm supposed to do with the brand. So I'm a good franchisee in another system, but I'm a bad franchisee in a different system. And you just have to recognize that. And what I see, even me at the time, I did not recognize it. I was putting more blame on the franchisor than I was on what I was doing wrong. So bad franchisee in a good with a good franchisor. I would complain. I really didn't have reason to complain, but I would. I didn't really recognize that I was the problem, or the decisions that I was making, or the things that I was doing was not really what the best franchisees in that particular brand were doing. So I've been there. I recognize this in new franchisees. Like, franchising is different. It's not like you get to do anything you want. You don't get to implement all of your ideas. And that's one of the reasons you buy into a franchise system, because you are using the systems that have worked for them. So a good franchisee, meaning a founder that had a business that was successful, profitable, they turned it into a franchise, and now they have franchisees that are starting to replicate that or have replicated that. That's a good franchisor. So anyway, that's number 2. Number 3 is like a good franchisee with a bad franchisor. This is what every franchisee thinks about when they think about where they are. I've thought about this. I've been this before, but let me give a little bit more of a good franchisee and a bad franchisor. What is a bad franchisor? When I think of a bad franchisor, I think, well, maybe they had their business a long time ago. It really wasn't successful because of them, or it was successful in a different market that doesn't really relate to most of America, or they sold all of their units and then they have kind of outsourced everything and they're not really involved in the business, and the franchisees are not successful. So founders checked out, majority, 80% of the franchisees are not successful. That's a bad franchisor. I mean, you could do whatever percentage that you want, but I'm pointing out to the extreme case. So franchisees are trapped. They would be better without the brand, but there's some warning signs that they could probably should have seen beforehand. Actually, that's my case. I should have seen some of the warning signs beforehand, and I didn't really pay attention to them. So that's a good franchisee, bad franchisor. Bad franchisee, bad franchisor. This is a disaster. Avoid that at all costs. Never get involved with that. I've never been that. I've been a bad franchisee with a good franchisor, but I've never been a bad franchisee with a bad franchisor. At least that's what I think. That might be wrong if you ask the franchisor. So let's get into some of like the real world with me, how I can help you, because I've been in these systems. So as a good franchisee in a poor system, most franchisees are not making money, maybe 5 or 10%. We're making money. I'm the one that bought into it. Like, that's on me. I bought into that, and I should have seen warning signs. One of the things, and I'm going to get into other things like what to do when you're in this situation, how I exited and whatnot. But this was me. I was a good franchisee in a poor system. Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are 2 really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisor and you're frustrated that you're not awarding as many franchises as you thought you would, this is the reason I created the Franchisor Mastermind. If you want access to the information, the techniques that the best franchise sales organizations are using to award franchises, and you want what mature brands have with their playbook of having happy, successful franchisees that grow the right way, then you might want to check out the Franchisor Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections. They want the playbook to achieve both short-term and long-term success. They want to increase enterprise value in their brand. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com. Most franchisees were not profitable. Bleeding was happening across the system. And if people are trying to guess what brand it is that it was, you'll probably not guess which brand it was. So don't even try. But I got overconfident. I didn't do enough due diligence. I thought because I've had success in the past in franchising that would automatically translate to me being able to not do as deep of due diligence, not calling as many franchisees, not really betting out that it is semi-absentee like I thought it was semi-absentee. I didn't have a local partner. A business partner was not local. These are some of the things that I've seen from others and myself that are kind of common themes when things are starting to go south. So these are decisions that I did wrong in most of the scenarios when I was losing money. I validated, but when I was validating with franchisees, I was wanting to validate the good things and did not want to validate the trouble signs. I didn't dive deep enough into validation. I didn't ask 2 or 3 key follow-up questions that I should have asked. Like, are you getting did you get some extra help from the franchisor that most people aren't going to get? Did you have certain types of employees that you were able to secure that the average person's not going to be able to get? Where there marketing that worked in your area that doesn't work in other areas? So, and then just diving deeper into those questions. I didn't do it and I should have. That's on me. And all of those things that I just mentioned are things that were magnified, like the lack of marketing, the hires were harder to make, all of those, the market demand wasn't there for the price point, all kinds of things. The local competitors had a stronghold on the market when I may not have understood how strong local competition was. But that's, ultimately on me because I didn't ask those questions, even though the brand should have figured some of that out beforehand. So those are some of the things. I'll give you kind of an example. One of mine, I was bleeding money. Let's call it about $10,000 a month, having to pay into the checking account as a capital call to keep the business afloat. The business was losing $10,000 a month, and I needed to keep money in the account. So that was just coming from my personal checking account as a capital call to the business. $10,000 a month, $120,000 that year. And then I delayed an exit. Like, I could have gotten out of it a year earlier, but I thought, you know what? I can turn this thing around, even though I'd already been doing that for a year. And at that point, I had the question in my head: could I do this for another year? If I do this for another year and sell it for the price that I want for it now, would I get out of it today? And the answer is yes. I would get out of that thing today for a lot less money, but I didn't. And so I still incurred another $120,000 loss. Is more like $150,000 loss because some of those capital calls were quite a bit more. For me, it was a lot of money, $150,000. The big thing for me, it was just mentally on my mind, like, what do I do? Is it going to get worse? Like, could it be $300,000 loss? And then what happens? And then there's another event like COVID that happens, and it's even worse. But here's the biggest thing for me. It was the opportunity cost. And I am going to factor opportunity costs if I'm ever in that situation again. So I had opportunity costs of mental energy. I had opportunity costs financially, $150,000 a year. What could I have done? I ended up basically giving that away, still having loans that I took out. So I walked away still with a lot of the money that I put out, which was significant, multiple 6 figures, and then a loan that I had for it, again, multiple 6 figures. Thank God I have other businesses that are way more successful, and I've had way more wins than I've had losses in franchising. But the reality is, like, I've had some losses, and I think that's what makes me good at what I do, helps me understand a franchisee's perspective, and so hopefully you'll find some help because of my losses, and hopefully I'll save you some pain financially and mentally. And then you'll be able to factor in opportunity costs a little faster than I was factoring it. So I ended up selling that business for nothing. I had to pay to sell it, actually. It cost me money to sell it. And then I had money that I still owed, and I already had sunk costs that I was out. But started a different franchise. When I sold that, I started a different one with partners that are amazing. They're experienced with that franchisor. They are local or can be local because they're just going to be a flight away, but they have experience doing that. And up to this point, first month, one of our locations, $10,000 profit. We are projecting year number one to finish at $120,000 to $150,000 net profit after everything's paid for. So I look at that $150,000 profit versus $150,000 loss. Like, that's a $300,000 swing if I would have made a decision 1 year earlier, and because I incurred an extra $150,000 loss and I missed out on $150,000 of profit. Not all of that 150 is mine because I have partners in there, but it gives you an idea of you're taking a location to a location. That's the swing, that's the spread. And so I missed out on that. I not only missed out on that, we have another location that is open, not as good. We did not execute as well, and that happens. Like, that just happens. Not everything's a rocket ship. Even with that, first month, $2,000 profit. We're projected to have a $50,000 to $75,000 profit on that one, which is about half of the Rockstar location. This one's about half of that. Now, we have a third location that is still in the pre-opening, pre-sale phase, and that we are projecting based on knowing what we did with location 1, location 2, location 3 is projected to open up between $5,000 to $10,000 that first month. Conservative estimate of net profit that first year is about $100,000. So we are talking about a swing on the low end of, just under like $250,000 to on the high end, significant amount. That's the opportunity cost. That is what I wasn't thinking about as clearly when I was a year before, 2 years ago, thinking, gosh, I think I can get a little bit more out of this thing. I think we can get it to break even a year from now, and then we'll be able to recoup more when we sell it because someone will buy a business that's break even or making a little bit of money. Well, I hate doing business, working on businesses that are turnarounds. And I was just mentally not into it. Neither was my partner. So we lost $150,000. And I did not factor in the opportunity cost as much as I should have. So that's me. That's opportunity costs. That's something that is hard to think about, but that's something that most people that are in a distressed situation should be thinking about. So as a distressed franchise owner, somebody that's not making money or break even or making a little bit of money, but they want to get out of it, I would, as painful as it is, review those financial statements, make decisions off of those financial statements. And what I would have done looking back, okay, let's look at this. We're going to give this thing a year, but let's see how we are tracking. Let's back up quarterly, see where we need to be to get to break even at the end of 12 months, and then back that into the first 3 months. And if I miss the first 2 months if significantly, then it's time to sell, put it up for sale and sell it at a loss, do whatever I need to do. And so I would look at that, the financial metrics, just KPIs that I have in the business with new members or new customers or size of jobs or whatever those metrics are for you. If that's not increasing to the point where you need it to be able to hit your projections by the end of that year or 6 months or whatever it is, the target that you've set for yourself as a trigger of selling that business or not, set those clear triggers. Maybe it's something to do with the market too. The markets might be changing. I've been in different franchises where the market was starting to change. Factor that into an exit trigger as well. We've already talked about like the opportunity cost, but do financial modeling around that opportunity cost. And then if you are not going to take part in that opportunity, let's say it's another franchise that you were going to buy and other people that you know are actually in that brand, see how they're doing and see if that's tracking how you would thought it would have tracked. So financially model that. And I would just change the way that you do due diligence on your next brand. And I've bought, I think, 7 different brands as a franchisee over the years. And I always learn every time. So if you're just on your first brand, you're not going to know everything. If you just bought your second brand, you're not going to know everything. That's why you get around people in your current brand who are maybe existing franchisees of multiple locations and try to learn from them, going back to how do they do due diligence, and talk to some really smart people. Get into the Facebook group, ask good questions around due diligence there. Hopefully I've given you some information on due diligence that I've done differently than I did the first time. But I would definitely reevaluate how you evaluate franchises. And then just don't delay those decisions that are hard. It's so hard to just execute on a decision that is a hard decision because you just lock in a loss, and that really sucks. But if you every time I've sold at a loss, it's the best thing that I did. And I've lost probably over $1 million over the years in bad businesses, and most of it were things that I could have avoided, but I've made way more money than I have in the losses. So that's let me talk about another thing too. So when you're thinking about selling a business, you are automatically thinking, the common thing that people think about is, I want to get what I've put into the business back. I've been there. I wanted that. And then a year later, after you realize that's not happening because the buyers aren't out there for that, then you're like, I just want to get a little bit of money. I don't need to get it all back. And then a year after that, you've lost a lot more money because you've been bleeding and the opportunity costs, and then you're just ready to walk away. I've been there. I've walked away. The thing that's always important for me, and this is something that's really important, and more than even getting more money, is if there's a lease involved, is to have the new owner indemnify you moving forward. It's not like bulletproof, but for that lease, have them indemnify you. So if they default on the lease, the landlord goes after them as the new owner and not you. Best case scenario, you get off of the lease with the landlord. They take you off of that lease as a personal guarantor, and they put the new owner on. Sometimes you can work out things before you even sign a lease to have that happen in certain situations. But that's what I try to work in all leases. Most of the time it doesn't happen. Then have that new owner basically release you with an indemnification where they will pay if the landlord goes after them. This has happened to me. I've done this multiple times. I've had landlords try to come after me because new owners have defaulted. They shut the doors, and I said, you've got to go after them. And after a few attorney's letters, they stopped coming after me and they went after the new owner. That's an important piece. Talk to attorneys. Like, I'm not giving legal advice. I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving financial advice. All of this stuff you need to talk to your CPA about, you need to talk to your attorney about, and they'll help protect you. But you got to get into this mode of protection, because you could not only sell your business at a loss, but if you're tied into a personal guarantee, then you're exposing yourself even more. So you need to talk to an attorney before you actually sign a purchase and sale agreement, and even as you're working through the finer points and negotiating that purchase price. Keep in mind, franchisors have costs associated with the transfer. And so look at the transfer fees, etc. How to find buyers. I've done it multiple ways. I have had buyers that came from a business broker, like a local normal business broker. Had buyers that have been employees of mine. They were employees, and then some of them paid for the whole thing. Some of them I financed. But employees are a good source. Sometimes employees have a family member that wants to invest into them. And so you can actually get a good amount of money down, or they can buy the thing outright if they have a business partner. So don't discount people out just because you think they're an employee, they're not going to qualify. They know the business. If they have somebody that wants to invest into them, that might be a really good thing. Or there's franchisees that are in acquisition mode. Even in struggling franchise systems, there are franchisees that are bullish and they're okay acquiring these at a discount. And so find out who's in acquisition mode and make them a deal. There's all kinds of ways to structure a deal where you could still be on the lease. You could do an earn out. You can do all kinds of things, but just don't just go after one type of buyer. Just go after a lot of them, and hopefully you'll find the right one. Have your financials ready, even if it's a distressed asset. Financials aren't going to look good. Buyers know that, but you need to have the financials ready. Really be thinking through what's important to you. Talk to the attorneys, put a good purchase and sale together, and then get out of it. And then you get to move on. And then you have to the new opportunity. And then you can look back a year or two later, like I am, and saying, gosh, it's a lot better having first year $300,000 of profit in the new business versus leaking or bleeding $150,000 for holding on to something that's not something I should be holding on to. So I hope you found some of this useful. If you do like this stuff, just let me know in the Facebook group or message me, because I'm getting more feedback from people that they want some more podcasts with just me and not guests. I love interviewing guests because I get to learn from them. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I helped some people out, and hopefully people will look back and really see the whole opportunity cost thing that I was talking about, and it works out for them. Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.